Hello, welcome back. It is week 133 on Out on the Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. How you doing this week?
Jeff, I am all lit up like a pinball machine at Binion's, baby. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. That's pretty lit up. I've seen Binions. If you want to talk about flash and pomp and circumstance on the Vegas Strip, well, I guess not technically on the Strip, but that's one for it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way I live my life.
Yeah.
1/4 mile at a time.
Family, let's go. So this is the time of year, Alex, when it's time for like year-end lists, kind of best of what have you. And every year comes through, and it sucks to be an Apple user today. It's the Spotify Wrapped time, and I think there's going to be probably few surprises for mine, as same as last year. But we decided, well, you decided, and it was a good idea. I want to play a little game. We're going to guess what was on each other's Spotify Wrapped playlists. Now, I think my job is going to be a lot more difficult here than yours is. I'm a simple man. What can I say? But we're going to give it a shot and see if we can have a little fun with it. So, Alex, I'm going to give you a chance to see how do we want to do this? See if just like name one, and if it's in their top five, then it's like Battleship.
Yeah, it's top 5. I thought about it. I'm like, should we count up from 5 and do it's like, no, that. That's too specific.
Yeah.
So I think we just got to guess each other's top 5 to the best of our ability. And at any
Okay.
point when you want to talk about yours, just throw it out there.
Okay. I'm going to say for you, my first pick is going to be the Beach Boys.
No,
Oh,
there
swing
are
and a see. This is what
no
I
Beach
thought was going to
Boys.
happen. I have so many thoughts about what it could be for you because you listen to just so much stuff all the time, always.
Mine came out interesting and yet somehow very on brand. You'll see.
Okay.
So
Okay.
no Beach Boys. I'll give up one pick for that. At number
Okay.
5, the Lemon Twigs.
Okay. Would have never guessed that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of a gimme. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, and I remember when we did that album, that certainly would have been on your top 5 and not on mine.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time where I was just hammering that album like twice a day.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised it wasn't higher.
So why don't we do that? Yeah. If we miss the guess, then you give whatever your next up is. So I missed yours. So you gave me number 5 on your list. So when you guess this one, if it's not right, I'll tell you what number 5 is.
Well, I'm not going to bury the lead. Obviously, Turnstile has somehow found its way into the hearts of Jeff's everywhere.
Yes. So that I think that was number 2 actually for me.
Interesting. I would have thought higher.
Higher number one. Well, so I mean, number 1, it's a little embarrassing. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Eventually the truth will come out, and I'll explain why. I have good reason. But I'm gonna go ahead and give my next pick for you. I'm gonna go ahead and say, oh boy, Mitski.
Mitski was my number 1 to such an extent that the woman herself sent me a private message that I guaranteed that all the other freaks on Spotify didn't get. I know this was just for me. She was speaking directly to me. Never used my name, not once.
Okay.
But it was the most personal thing that's happened to me in a long
Dear
time.
Spotify user, I really appreciate your commitment this year.
Dear. It was amazing.
All right.
It was the best day of my life.
All right. So we got number 5 is Lemon Twigs for you. Number 1, Mitski. So we got it bracketed.
Get your bookends.
Yeah, we got to figure out what the meat of the sandwich is.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to skirt the rules in a delicious way. And I'm going to say that there is some band in your top 5 this year with some absurd name like Dragon Assault or Screaming High School Principal with a crossbow bolt in his leg. It's one of these weird, there's some little freaky deaky thing on there. So tell me what it was.
So, Fugitive is the one that you're probably thinking of. Great metal band from here in Texas. Really listened to them a lot. I don't know if I would have, if I were picking my top artists of the year, I don't know if I would have put them up there, because when I listened to them, it was just like a very concentrated amount. and I only listen to, I think, 24,000 total minutes of Spotify, just like in general, including podcasts. So, I really kind of listen to the albums that we do for the show on Spotify. And then in my car, I'll mostly listen to podcasts, and I'll listen to a lot of music on my speakers here, like on CDs and vinyl and stuff like that. But I would not have picked Fugitive, but I guess technically with the number of minutes listened to, they were. So, that's how the list is made.
Okay, so Fugitive was number, I'm gonna say 4 for you.
Three.
3. I gotta start
Number three. Yes. And they're great, but they only have one EP out so far. There's like 6 songs that exist by them. So, well, like certainly I listened to a lot of them, and I think a lot of it had to do with my gym playlist. There's only a certain number of songs on that, and I don't want to brag or anything, but I go quite a bit. So that playlist gets a lot of run.
Yes, yes, also gives me the runs. Um, sorry, I'm writing down
No,
all
that's
of
the
our
that's the pre-workout.
yeah, you take the right one and it's gonna blow right through you like a blood orange hurricane, which is also the title of the powder. Um, so I just guessed one of yours. What'd you call this band again?
Fugitive.
Fugitive.
Yes.
Okay. Fugitive was your number 3. All
Yes.
right, grab another one for me.
So I'm gonna say, oh boy. I want to say this could be completely out of left field and totally wrong, but I'm gonna say Always.
Not this year.
Okay, damn.
Not this year.
Damn.
But you're in the vicinity in the sense that it's someone that the listeners are familiar with to
Mhm.
the extent that we have repeat customers on this thing. It's one that we, like we are familiar with this. It's in our consciousness. Several of
Ooh.
these, 2 of these.
Okay. Okay. I think I know one of them.
Okay.
Do you want to give another one away, or can I get another guess?
No, you do it.
I'm gonna say SZA.
I just killed my ex.
Knew it.
Not the best idea. Scissors number 3. How'd you like that, Jeff?
I'm honestly doing better at this with your list than I thought I was going to. I had
You are.
zero confidence going into this at all.
I told you it's very on brand. All right, I got to do another one for you. I'm going back to the old reliables, and I'm gonna say Slipknot.
Number one,
God
baby.
damn it! Of course it was. I was sitting
And
on that one
yeah,
all day.
yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, before I forget, is a jam on jams of jams. Wait and Bleed has been a classic forever. I will make no apologies for the Slipknot that I listen to in the gym. Find me something more motivating than music you feel like you want to run away from. And Slipknot is exactly that.
Well, maybe someday I'll listen to an entire Slipknot album all the way through, but you're gonna have to do the same for Elvis Costello. So this
did you
might be a
give
little bit of a détente.
did you give away a pick? Is Elvis Costello on your list?
He's not,
Oh,
believe it or not.
you rope-a-dope me. You knew what you were doing.
Bing, 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 bing. What a fucking kangaroo! I'll slip you one.
All right, you said it was 2 people that were we've talked about a lot. So I'm gonna say Margot Price.
Not Margot Price, and I shouldn't say we've talked about them a lot. I'll thin this out for you.
Okay.
This is an artist we covered on the show this year,
Okay.
and I was far more bullish on this artist than you.
Okay.
You weren't negative, but I was feeling some kind of way.
Okay. Was it a solo artist?
It was
Was it recently?
somewhat.
Okay, so not Chris Stapleton. I don't think I'm gonna pull this one out. I'm trying to think of the list, and all I'm getting is a blank. Who is it?
Cali Uchis.
Oh my I did. I thought of that one earlier and I was like, I don't know if you would listen to her enough."
Oh my god,
Okay.
tons. Crush,
Yeah.
crush, 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 crush.
Okay.
Caliucci's at number 2.
Okay. Number 2. Yeah, that's strong. That's a strong list. How
Yeah.
many minutes total of Spotify did you listen to this year? Do you remember what it said?
I don't remember what it said.
But you're just kinda, like, constantly on it because
Yeah,
even at
just
work, you
listening
can
then.
listen to it, yeah. See, I wish I had the opportunity if I could just have my earbuds in at work, I would absolutely love that. I would do that every single day. Um, so you have 1 more, right? Number 4 on your list?
I have number 4, you have 2, and on my next pick, I'm saying Tyler Childers.
Number 5 for me.
Alright,
Yep,
bing, bing.
yep. That's a safe pick. Now the last one on my list, this is the one that I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna get this one. But I have 1 more pick for you, and it's both number 4, huh?
Yeah,
Wow, okay. That's probably gonna be the most obscure pick for both of us. Let's
maybe.
ooh, not obscure for okay. Is it Casey Musgraves?
No, but it is someone we covered on the show this year.
Okay. Once again, I'm gonna draw a blank. Just give the people what they want. What was number 4 for you?
I'm gonna love you 6 ways to Sunday. Blackberry
Okay.
Smoke and I had a year, dude. Apparently, we had a
Okay.
year.
Yeah, see, I never would have guessed that. Never would have assumed that they hit your rotation that heavy, but they're fantastic.
You coulda knocked me over with a
Yeah.
goddamn feather. I apparently crushed a lot of Blackberry Smoke this year.
The live from Daryl's house that they did was fantastic.
It was wonderful. Daryl
Mhm.
Hall, I got questions about that dude.
Yeah,
He's either super chill or he's the biggest douchebag ever, and I can't figure it out.
probably both.
That's tough for me.
Yeah, probably if you're not a threat, he's probably absolutely fine with you, but I feel like that guy does not take challenges to his authority or manhood very lightly.
Yeah, I'm sure. With his
Yeah,
nice feathered hair and his
yeah.
Botox. Wait, did you say you're 4? Did I guess you're 4?
You haven't guessed 4. 4 is the last one for me.
Got it. Okay. It's not someone we've covered on the show, I'm going to assume.
It is not someone we've covered on the show.
Okay. It's a solo artist?
No, but it did produce one.
Ooh, okay. NSYNC.
Close. It is, they did come from the same scene. I'm
Oh,
just
fuck,
kidding. They did not come from the same scene.
you fucker. Just tell me what it is.
The Misfits.
No shit.
Yes, sir. Number 4 this year.
Wow.
Yes, and I mean, we're talking about, Dig Up Her Bones is fantastic. Hybrid Moments. I mean, you got your classic Helena, whichever way they say it. That song is that was my number 1 song of the year, was Helena by The Misfits.
Wow, fuck.
Yes, that song is as good as it gets, my friend. Hybrid Moments, if you want the best, like, melodic punk you've ever heard in your life, The Misfits are it. I mean, it just, like, truly nobody did it better. Hybrid Moments, the melody line that they use in that song, my god, it's so good. It's magic.
Well, that's kind of a nice little transition into the band and the album that we're talking about this week,
Yes, and we
now
are
that you think
going
of
to
it.
be talking about the Menzingers. In the new album, some of it was true. So they are definitely, I don't know if they're as a prototypical punk band as the Misfits, certainly not anymore.
Mm-mm.
But what was your kind of familiarity with the Menzingers prior to this album?
Essentially non-existent. I know I've heard some singles, couldn't tell you what they're called because they fall into this kind of unfortunate chasm for me of really talented, solid artists, like rock and roll, punk, pop
Mhm,
artists that are super duper solid, but they're not necessarily going out there and doing all the weird shit that I tend to gravitate towards.
mhm.
And that's not an affectation. That's the thing I hate about myself the most. I can't sit down and be like, I seen fire and I seen rain. I'm like, that needs a melodica solo. There should be goats screaming.
Yeah.
Why is he not talking about the things he sees in his nightmares? This is not
Mhm.
compelling to me at all. And I hate that about myself. So things like the Menzingers and the Revivalists
Mhm,
and there's a bunch of stuff. Spoon. We did Spoon last year and I'm like,
mhm,
it's good. But it wasn't like doing the weird shit. So Menzingers fall into that like sad little
mhm.
chasm that I have just because I am who I am. So I was fresh going into this basically.
Yeah. So the Menzingers, I remember hearing the song "I Don't Want to Be an Asshole Anymore" off the Rented World album, and from that point, just completely fell in love with the Menzingers. So I've listened to them for years, quite extensively. And I think there was a couple years ago they were on my Spotify like top artists list. So they've had some classic albums. After the Party is a classic Menzingers album. Rented World is probably my favorite one, just because it was the one that got me kind of into them in the first place. They've definitely kind of aged up with their music. It used to be that it was just lots more kind of like screamo influences, things like that. Songs like Good Things are fantastic. They really just do a good job at playing that kind of very Americana style of rock and roll these days. So I draw more comparisons from the Menzingers to bands like the Gaslight Anthem or the Bouncing Souls and their more recent stuff. In that they aren't necessarily like the punk band that they used to be. Now they're much more of a just kind of like rock and roll band. I really appreciated this album. I think there was enough moments in it that I thought did get a little different from what they normally do. I don't know if this was the album that if you're not already a Menzingers fan, that this is the one that's going to do it for you. But I don't think there's anything. I don't see where people are going to find something necessarily wrong with this album. But I can certainly understand if I hear people saying they didn't get that excited for it.
Well, count me out of that because this was
Mhm.
great. I really enjoyed this as an entry
Excellent.
point.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
This felt perfectly natural. And the thing is you can tell, I don't even have to hear the rest of their music to know that you're exactly correct, that they definitely sound aged up. I get a vibe from this of punks who grew out of the toxicity of the kind of like punk tenets, like,
Mhm.
oh, you're selling out, meh, 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 and all this like weird adherence to like pure punk that none of them stick to. So they're all hypocrites and they all have to eat crow. And this seems like a group of people that had the wisdom to take all the great things about punk and carry them forward and not
Mhm.
be so fucking dogmatic about it. And it allowed them to make a very like angsty punk driven sensibility to like you said, like rock and roll touching on
Mhm.
Americana. This is a very like American style album.
Mhm.
It's got a lot of those like existential, like very simple existential, I'm fucked up, I'm heartbroken, I'm angry, just like all of these classic relatable
Mhm.
sentiments in it with that punk furor. And it's less like it just you can tell again without having heard any of it that this felt like an evolution to me without having
Mhm.
even seen what came before.
Yeah.
It
And
felt
they
very like fleshed out.
they do a great job at really, one, I think the lyrically they speak very clearly, as far as the words they use and kind of the structure of everything, and then how they sing it as well. Like it's not difficult to understand what they're saying, which makes it very easy to understand the emotions they're trying to kind of get across. It's always been that way with the Menzingers. I think they've definitely toned down how aggressive some of the vocals get over the years, which kind of probably natural. They probably just don't want to sing like that anymore, or really want to find a reason not to. They dipped a little bit into country on this. There was a few of the songs that the verses were definitely like very country kind of inflected and influenced, which I loved. I mean, I really, really think I've always thought the Menzingers musically were among the best of this kind of later generation of punk bands. There was a lot of bands that were heavier. There's a lot of bands that played faster than they did, but as far as like a listening experience and feeling like you could actually connect with these songs because they were about emotions, they were about like real life situations, not necessarily, you know, a ton of political views, although they do get political on a lot of songs, especially the album before this one. um it really is nice to see how much they're just willing to change and like play more of what they're comfortable with. And if in punk music, if like authenticity is like the most important thing, which I think is always been kind of number one, is you got to mean it. I think this is exactly what that kind of, if you're following the punk commandments or whatever, like this album does that perfectly. It plays to exactly what their strengths are now. I think this could be on the radio. I mean, all of it's got a good upbeat, like kind of sensibility to it. All the songs move right along. They could be radio singles. I don't know how much they would ever get there, maybe on alternative radio. Um, but it's definitely a lot easier on the ears than some of the older Menzingers stuff was. But I think the older stuff was meant to be like very challenging, like very in your face. And this, I think, is much more meant to be like, this is what life is now. We understand we're not on an island. We're all on the same boat. And kind of these are the observations we've made, since we've now grown up a little. And I really appreciate that about them, because as a 36-year-old, like, I mean, I love the Descendants, but I'm Not a Loser is not a song that I can really relate to these days. It's like I don't. It's not that it's any worse than it was before, but it's just something that doesn't connect with you the same way like these Menzingers songs do.
Well, and that's what's kind of cool about this is you go back to a song like "There's No Place for Me in This World." That
Mhm.
is a very like young, angsty as fuck punk sentiment,
Mhm.
right? I love Rory to death. I can see Rory writing a song like that.
Yes.
Incredibly talented musician, and I think it speaks to what that punk sensibility is. Like the great things about punk, again, anti-authority, DIY, and based around community and like people going to shows in basements. Speaking of Rory, where he went to a show once where there were so many people packed in the room and it was so hot that they warped the door frame and were briefly trapped
Mhm.
in the venue, use of air quotes. So like that's like the spirit of punk rock, to take a song like "There's No Place for Me in This World." You buy that from, 18 to 20-year-olds in their punk band, and you buy that. That's a sentiment that only gets like more raw and uncomfortable over time. So now if you have, I don't know how fucking old these guys are, let's just say they're our age. Like if I wrote a song
Mhm.
like that at 34, it takes on a completely different flavor, but that same angst, that same sensibility is still there. So again, this is like a genre to me that I shall call wise punk.
Yes,
It's
I like that.
very wise punk.
Yes, I like that. I've seen them live twice. They're actually playing in Austin tonight, like the night we're
Oh,
recording this.
baby.
They're probably on stage maybe right now. And I just didn't. It was like $40 to go see the show, and I was like, I don't need to. It's just too much these days.
You could have done the show from the concert.
I could just say, yeah, held my phone up. No, it was fine.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great, Alex, is when
yeah.
they play the music.
It was fine. I just felt I got to work in the morning. I just felt like I'm too old to be playing that game. But they really, like, I loved the "There's No Place for Me in This World" for me. Come On Heartache was
Mm,
like a country song. I mean, straight up, like the
even
lyrics
the
of it.
title.
Yeah, like the title of it, like everything about it was country except just played as a rock song, and I loved it. And I loved the some of the harmonies, like, so, and especially in, I think the end of, I think some of it was True, when they really start, like the two guys that do most of the singing, when they like start really playing off each other. That's one thing they've done a lot better now, is like they sing now. Like they really try to like have good melodies and like hit the notes. Previous, it was just all about like how loud can we sing, how fast can we sing, like how much gravel can I get in my voice. It was the punk sensibility. No blame or no shade to them. But now they like really are focusing on doing some melodies and like harmonizing, and it is so good. And I really, there's so many points on this. I think some of it was true towards the end of that song, where it's like they just start really, everything just kind of winds itself up into a frenzy. And I just love that. When a song goes somewhere like that, it just was so good.
And this music drives, it
Mhm.
chugs. It never feels like it's in a hurry, but it chugs along. And it's like absolutely pitch perfect in, first of all, the mixing, perfectly mixed. And I know that like that was kind of like a reach when we did Spoon. I was like, it wasn't like the most exciting thing. It was
Mhm.
beautifully mastered,
Yeah.
mastered and mixed. But this genuinely was, because I was listening to what some song, I can't remember what it was, and I'm like, this sounds so fucking compressed and shitty. I hate
Mhm.
this. And then you listen to an album like this, and you're like, oh, this is lush. This is in your ears. This is nice.
Mhm.
And it's just tight instrumentation. They're not, that's what's crazy about, like, to me, they're not doing all this different stuff with all these different instruments. It's like
Mhm.
very basic, very straightforward, but it's done with so much like absolute piss and vinegar that it stands out to me. Both like it's reflected in the way that they play their instruments. It's this like very controlled angst through the
Mhm.
sound, but also the shit they're singing about and the way they're singing about it. It just managed to like jump the gap for me and land safely on the other side with all the weird shit I like. And this is
Mhm.
not weird.
No, and this I mean, this is about as straightforward of, kind of rock and roll as they've ever played, honestly. They've started to like, but it was not something I didn't see coming. Because as they've, aged, like the music has changed. It's not as intense, like there's not as much anger involved with it. The anger is in the frustration that things are still bad. It's not about like that active white hot rage that you first experience. It's the frustration of years of this stuff happening. And I feel like they represent so well, like just this kind of certain pocket of an age group that we're in, as far as the things that you go through emotionally, because it's not about, it's like most people are, by this age, long-term relationships, are married, you have different things that can affect you and bother you. It's not always going to be like fuck the government and that's it. It's like there's other things that punk music can do, that punk musicians can kind of speak to. And I think for folks that already loved punk music, albums like this are perfect because it's kind of meeting us where we're at now. It's giving us that same emotional buildup and that release that we loved about the punk music, but matching lyrics and themes to it that speak more to where we're at now, I think is what makes this an extremely successful album.
And I think, with all the themes of alienation is something that just like changes flavor over time. It doesn't lose flavor.
Hmm.
And like we all still feel, I feel it at work because it's a lot of artists running around being like, did you know I'm an artist? I
Hmm.
like a lot of these people, but it's just they've counted you out as a creative because they don't see the work that you're doing every day. So sometimes you just feel kind of like, well, everybody here thinks I'm just a ham and egger here to punch the card. And it's like,
Hmm.
I'm doing a lot and I enjoy this, but you just kind of feel like you're on the outside looking in. And I'm 34 and I don't have hurt feelings about it, but there are just times where I'm like, holy shit, square peg in the round hole around here.
Hmm.
And I remember feeling like that as a kid and feeling like the world was going to end. So now you're going to be okay, but you still feel this shit. And this is an album that very much reflects that idea, but it rocks. To quote Reno,
Hmm.
rock solid.
Yeah.
It's rock solid rock music that you want to play loud. And goddamn, I love stuff like that when
Hmm.
it's purely there to rock. It's not there to shake up everything you knew about music or thought you knew about music. It's there for you. It's solid and you can just rock the fuck out. We gotta have bands like that.
Hmm.
Gotta have music like that. And you get that here. I'm gonna give this a buy it.
Yes, I'm gonna agree with you. Absolutely a buy it for me. You get it on CD, vinyl, cassette, whatever. And who was saying, I think last year, who was saying cassettes were actually gonna be on their way back? When I was talking about CDs, somebody mentioned that cassettes were also on their way back. And it was me. I said it. And you know what? I was at my local Waterloo record store. And you know what they had? An entire goddamn wall of cassette tapes. And you know what? At least half of them was brand spanking new released with albums this year.
And I'm sure they all still cost $1.95.
Maybe like move a decimal point over one, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, you're closer to the 20 mark on those things now, I think. Um
What the fuck?
yeah. But I mean, hopefully people get out there and we're able to take advantage of Record Store Day for Black Friday. I don't know if you got out there, but I got my sweet little paws on a little Coheed and Cambria special
No.
live album release, live at the Starland Ballroom. So that was a good pickup. Also picked up a Turnstile collaboration with the band Bad.
You?
Yeah, they did a collaboration with the band Bad Bad Not Good,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
who are a jazz band. It's fantastic. So it's like jazz versions of the Turnstile songs. Like it's
Okay,
really
I'm
really
into
good.
that. Bad,
You'd
bad, not
probably
good
like it a
is
lot.
good, good, not bad.
Yeah, so you'd probably like it a lot. And I think they did like 3 songs, but I saw they had the Record Store Day version of that and
Cool.
picked that up. And then just a Coheed CD of an edition I did not have yet.
Well, God bless you. God
Hmm.
bless, Jeff, bless your heart.
I'm gonna guess that a place like if you find yourself in Vermont, Buchspieler, but probably 15 places around Portland have some Record Store Day stuff left sitting around.
Oh, I'm sure. The thing is, I can't really think of anything right now that I'm looking for that like trips my trigger. I've really kind of reverted to like if something new comes out that I'm interested in, I'll get that.
Hmm.
Like I would like to pick up Strays, Margot Price at some point. It's very cheap on Amazon right now, but
Hmm.
that feels dirty. Support your local record store. But yeah, it's either something I have to see when I'm like
Hmm.
crate flipping with Tanner, or it's something I got to know. Like Caliucci's, I listened to that album and I was like, well, I can't go on my podcast and say it's a buy it if I don't go out and buy it
Yep, that's true.
immediately
That's true.
on cool colored vinyl.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. They come out with the fun colors for the vinyl. Like I had to stop myself from buying a Coheed album, that another re-release of the In Keeping Secrets album that they did on like a lavender vinyl. And it was like I already own this album on vinyl of an edition that's like a valuable one that I got when it came out like years ago. So I'm like, I'm not gonna buy this thing. It was $30, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna get the one I don't have that I came here for. This one just because it's there, I don't need to buy it. And then I happened to walk by the crate and saw the Turnstile one. I was like, yoink, I'll get that instead.
You, I tell you what, man, it's a struggle. It's a brutal internal struggle. And we
Yes.
actually, like, fans of the show will know, you and I have had our fair share of internal struggles, of battles with moral turpitude, wrestling with the larger questions of is God dead and did we kill him? This is the kind of high level shit that's flying at your face all the time, every week at youtube.com/C/out on that line. That's right, folks. We're still doing it. We're still plugging the YouTube. We gotta just put a little bit of just put a little love in the kitty. Keep that YouTube a rolling forward because we're gonna do some really cool stuff in 2024. And I
Hmm.
know that they say when you have a resolution, as soon as you think of it, you should implement it in your life. Don't wait for January 1st. Yeah. Listen, I'm in the business of making excuses. Okay. So we're going to wait for a number on the calendar to change before we try to change. And you can watch this process. Let's be honest, we might get even lazier towards the end of the year just to really, binge before we build ourselves back up. And you can watch it however it plays out at youtube.com/C/out on that line. You have to like the videos. You have to subscribe. You have to make sure notifications are on, or else how will you know that we're putting stuff out for you?
Mhm.
And for the love of God, will you leave a comment? We love reading them, even when they're mean as shit. Those are kind of the fun ones.
Yes,
So
those I prefer.
absolutely. Come
Yeah.
join the rebellion of feces flingers and pseudo intellectuals that we've got cooking over at youtube.com/C/out on that line.
Yeah, there's 1,800 people now that are on there, which is
Can't
wild to
believe they've
think
done
about.
this.
Yeah, can't believe it. Can't believe it. But definitely check out every video we've ever done. Watch them all. If you've got days to spare, you've got Christmas vacation coming up. You're going to have that whole week between Christmas and New Year's. You absolutely, I think, I don't know how many hours it is, but You could absolutely listen to everything we've ever done if you do it 24/7 for that entire week. We might even have more content than that. I don't even know. Um, but definitely go check it out. Subscribe down below. Keep an eye out for our end of year list. I know I mentioned that sort of thing earlier today, but that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So if there was anything that really burned your ears this year in a good way or a bad way, let us know what it was. What maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe it'll line up and validate our choices for the end of the year list. But you're only going to find out at youtube.com/C/out on that line and every other place you get podcasts. But tell us what you want to hear. Alex, do you have any closing thoughts this week?
I got absolutely nothing. Let's dump out.
Let's dump out. Until next time.